2022, guys, it's almost a wrap. To those who've been celebrating Christmas, I hope you had an amazing time with your friends and family. I decided to make a little bit of a recap video, a wrap-up video of this year, and share some insights on how I've been experiencing these past 12 months. And to be honest with you, I wasn't really sure if I wanted to do this, but I decided to do it anyways. And I guess the reason is because I understood that it would require a level of honesty and vulnerability, of which quite frankly, I wasn't really sure if I wanted to go down that road. But, in the light of honesty, I decided, let's just go through with it. And, in the hope that it'll give you some inspiration, some motivation, whatever it is you're seeking, let's just fucking do this. So the beginning of this year, January 2022, I was actually dealing with a really bad breakup. And I was dealing with the breakup with the woman that I thought and hoped that I was going to marry someday. And so I didn't tell anyone, nobody knew, but I found out on a Friday afternoon that the breakup was going to be permanent, right? That's when we exchanged the final messages, and I was like, you know what, this is really over. And in that moment, I guess I kind of like gave myself the permission to feel sorry for myself for a while. And so I closed the door of my apartment, turned down the lights. I didn't talk to anyone. I shut off the phone. I went to bed, and I was just feeling for myself for 2-3 days straight. I didn't eat. I didn't shower. I was only sleeping and Netflixing, and that's it. However, that Sunday evening arrived, and I knew I would have to make a decision, right? I was like, is this how you want to start your week? Is this experience either going to make you or is it going to break you? And I remember very vividly that Sunday evening, somewhere around 7 p.m., I decided, it was kind of like a promise that I made. I said, like, no matter what is going to happen tomorrow, no matter how I'm going to feel, I'm going to wake up at 5, I'm going to hit the gym, and when I come back, I'm going to write down some goals and all the things that I want to accomplish in 2022. So that's what I did. I went to bed, set the alarm at 5, woke up, exhausted, drained from all the emotions, and at the same time, I had one of the craziest workouts that I've ever had in my entire life. And when I came back, I took a shower, took a pen and a piece of paper, and I wrote down all the things that I wanted to do. And I actually, I have it here on paper. And so one of the first goals that I wanted to accomplish was start making more money. And obviously you have to write that down a bit more specifically. So I wrote down that I needed to earn at least 10K a month consistently. That was the goal. And so at that time I was working as a business consultant, and I knew that I would have to resign my job. So that's what I did. That same Monday, I picked up the phone, called my manager, gave him the, we need to talk speech. And he knew what was going on, give him a 4 weeks notice. And that was it. I immediately quit my job. Now, some of you may be asking, why did you do that? Why did you resign your job before you even had something new? And the reason is because that's exactly what I needed in that specific moment. I needed to put myself in a corner. I felt like I needed to put myself in a difficult position, get out of the comfort zone again, and just make sure that no matter what was going to happen, I would look for a way to make that 10K a month. So I knew I would have to become creative. I knew that I would have to go after it, and this is exactly what I needed to do. The second thing that I wrote down, which is the second goal, is become my own best friend again. So besides making more money, I also really felt like I needed to become my own best friend again, because everybody that has ever been through, a difficult relationship, especially at that final stage, you really know that you have been out of touch with yourself. You really know that you haven't been aligned with who you are, who you've always been, and more importantly, who you wanted to become. So I needed to work on myself again, because obviously it takes two to tango. I had some things that I wasn't really proud of and that I needed to work on. So I wrote that down. And so the first thing that I wrote down is what are my values? What are the things that I genuinely value, the things that I genuinely value in any relationship, and the things that I value in my life, what are those things? And I wrote that down. The second thing that I wrote down was what are your boundaries? What are you actually standing for? Because, I felt like my boundaries had been violated so many times, but at the same time, I felt like I was the one to blame for it because I never really stood my ground. So what are some of the things that I really never wanted to argue over, the things that I really wanted to say a yes to when I actually meant no? And what are some of the things that I actually do maybe consider to negotiate about? I really wanted to become crystal clear on that. So I wrote that down as well. And the third thing that, kind of like belongs to that same goal of becoming my own best friend again, like what are some of the fun things you want to do? Like, just make a fucking bucket list and go after it. Like, what is stopping you from doing those things that you've always dreamed of doing? And so one of the things was like getting my skydiving license. That was number one on my list. Problem was that every fucking school in a 200 kilometer radius was already fully booked for that entire year. So they told me like, you have to come back in spring 2023. So that's what I'm gonna do. But the second thing was like, I also really wanted to get my motorcycle license. So I did that. I really wanted to travel a bit more. So I did that. Like I signed up for a surfing camp in Portugal, as some of you may have seen. I went to Istanbul. I did these little trips in between that I didn't film, etc. Also, I felt like I wanted to change my closet. I wanted to take something as simple as taking myself out for dinner or taking myself out to the movies. Like I really felt like I needed to do those things. So I wrote down those goals, but I also felt like I didn't want to run away from the breakup, if that makes sense, because a lot of people, they resort to addictions, whether it's alcohol, they fall into a new relationship, or they decide, you know what, fuck it, I'm out of here. They start traveling and backpacking for a few months. I didn't want to be that guy. I really wanted to look for a way to be productive, but at the same time embrace the breakup so I can deal with it in a constructive manner. So I came up with this thing, which was like the 15-minute window. And the 15-minute window was a window of 15 minutes in which I would allow myself every day, max 15 minutes, in which I would allow myself to just sit still with myself. No smartphones, no screens, no laptops, nothing. Just me, myself, and I, 15 minutes, and just let whatever emotion come up. And so I would do this to not ignore what was going on, right? And so it wasn't at a specific time. It wasn't like I'm going to do this at 4 p.m. I would just like, here's like 15 minutes. Whenever you feel you need it, you take it. And so that Monday, I was actually around 4 p.m., somewhere between 4 and 5. I went sitting on the couch, and I remember that I didn't know what to do with myself. Quite honestly, that's the God honest answer. I was sitting on the couch and I didn't know what to do with myself because I was so used to, having someone around or having a phone on my hand or, like doing something. And when you're in pain, like you don't want to sit still with yourself and with your thoughts, right? It's like, it's genuinely uncomfortable. So I didn't really know what to do with myself, but instinctively, the first thing that I did, which is really weird, but I started to kind of like pray on her behalf. It's kind of like praying and hoping that she was okay, that she wasn't just sobbing and crying in bed, praying that she would be surrounded by the right people, that she would get over me, that she would find a great life, all those kinds of things. And the interesting thing about this, quite ironic thing is that in doing so, I was speeding up the healing process because I was praying on someone else's behalf. I was also letting go of the resentment. I was also letting go of the bitterness. I was also letting go of the anger. And so it felt so fucking good that I decided, you know what, this is exactly what I'm going to be doing for the next couple of weeks, like whatever, as long as it feels necessary. So I think I did that for like 2.5, 3 weeks straight every fucking day. I would give myself like the 15-minute window, going after my goals and just, praying on someone else's behalf. Now, the way I went after goal number 1, earn at least 10K a month. Basically, I took inventory of what I wanted to do, and one of the things that had my interest the most was like becoming a company coach, looking for ways how you can make teams collaborate, and also just help on a strategic level to think with company and C-level management. So I went on LinkedIn. I was looking for all kinds of companies, top 100 companies in this, top industries, top positions, like whatever. And I would type in the names of the people that were responsible in certain positions, and I would just pick up the phone and I would call them. And I remember that especially in the beginning, I would make like somewhere in the range of 30 to 50 calls a day. 30 to 50 calls a day. I wouldn't send them my resume. I would first pick up the phone, just introduce myself. Hello, sir, my name is Hisham. I saw that you work for this company in XYZ. And, I thought instead of just sending you a boring resume, let me just, pick up the phone, introduce myself and see if we can help each other out. And if you like what I have to say, I can still send you my resume by the end of this phone call. Did that with the biggest fucking smile on my face. Like I went to the fucking mirror, put a huge smile on my face, even though I was I was feeling like crap, but I did that 20, 30, 40, 50 times a day. And after 2 weeks, my phone started to ring. Like all these guys that I had calling, they started to call back, say like, look, we like your profile, we like your energy, we like how you introduced yourself and that you were thinking out of the box. We would like to invite you for an interview. So within 4 weeks, I already had my first client. Within a couple of weeks after, I had my second client. The first one was at the police, the second one was at a local city hall, the third client was at another government position, the fourth client was at another company. So 4 clients by April. By April, I decided at the end of January that I was going to do this. So basically within 2-3 months, it was a done deal. I was making my 10K a month. Now, obviously, this came with a couple of consequences. And one of the consequences was I was posting so much fucking content on Instagram and all these fucking things. I knew that I wouldn't be able to keep up with that, right? So if you go back and you see all these fucking videos, they were probably from, before June, July, whatever, from 2022, because after that, I was swamped in work. So I have basically 2 reasons why I stopped posting that much. The first one was just like the amount of work that I was drowning in. I was working my ass off because if you have 4 clients, all of them want your attention. It was basically almost all of them on a full-time basis. That's like 4 times, I think 2 of them were like 36 hours and 2 of them were like 24 hours a week. So do the fucking math. That's a lot of fucking hours that I needed to work. The second reason, quite honestly, was also like, I felt like I lost touch with what I was doing. I felt like the videos that I was making weren't genuine anymore. I didn't want to do it anymore. So when I came back from my surf trip in Portugal, I was like, you know what, this is it. I talked to a friend of mine. I had a conversation about how to go about this because I'd been posting quite consistently for quite some time. So it felt really uncomfortable to make that step and, potentially letting people down. And, you think about the algorithm of Instagram, this and that. I was like, but this is what I need to do. So I'm going to stop posting for now. And whenever I feel like picking it up again, that's when I'll pick it up again. And when I say when I feel, I don't mean like, oh, when I feel like doing it. No, like when it feels right. When it feels right and when it feels aligned with what I want to do, I'll pick up the camera again and I start making content again. So basically, that's also kind of like semi-part of the reason why I'm making this video. To go back a little, when I was making these phone calls to these companies with a smile, I remember that in one particular moment, I was about to quit. I was about to just give up. I had a moment of weakness again. I had a little, how do you call it? Like when you get these withdrawal symptoms and you just feel like you lose appetite and you don't want to do anything. And I just had like one of those days, and I remember that I took a whiteboard marker and I walked to my bathroom, and that's when I wrote down the famous words on the mirror: future looks bright. That's where it comes from. Future looks bright. I wrote it down because I felt like every day, every morning when I wake up, I walk to the bathroom, I rinse my face. Every evening when I go to bed and brush my teeth, I need to look at those words. I need to see it right there. Future looks bright. Reminding myself that no matter what was going to happen, everything will be okay, and this was just another chapter. So the reason that I'm sharing this with you is because I need you to understand that everybody goes through these phases. Everybody has moments of difficulties in their lives that can either make them or break them, but they're going to define you either way, right? If something big happens, it is going to define you, but it is up to you how it's going to define you. And so this year, I look back on it with, I guess you could say with a sense of pride, if that doesn't sound too arrogant. Like I feel like I can be proud of myself and all the things that I've accomplished. because I can't recall any other year in the past 5 years at least in which I've evolved so much as a person, in which I've evolved so much as a man, in which I've evolved as a person who wants to contribute to the world, but also, you know, get to know himself better and to put himself in more difficult positions. And I just know right now, and I believe, that's a better word, like I know and believe that the things that I can accomplish are much bigger than whatever I had in mind before that. So I need you to understand that 1 or 2 decisions really can make a fucking difference. People think that it takes a fucking lifelong to turn the page and, you know, make things better, etc. It can happen relatively quickly with singular focus. And so what I want to push you to do is, before the end of the year, is make this fucking list. Write a couple of things down that you want to accomplish, and don't make it too complicated. Like, really, don't make it too complicated, and just get that engine going. Look for ways to level up, because what else are you gonna do? The thing is, like, everybody changes, but not everybody grows, and it's up to you whether you want to change or grow. But if you want to grow, you need to have a plan. And let me be very specific. Let me be very, very explicit. I genuinely had no idea how I was going to make 10K. I had no idea how I was going to make 10K, at least 10K. And the thing that I got to understand is that you just have to put yourself out there. That's it. Because if there's like 10 steps that you need to do in order to get there, you don't need to understand step 9 or 10. You don't even need to understand step 5. The only step that you need to understand is step number 1, maybe step number 2, and maybe step number 3. That's all it takes, because once you get to step number 3, step number 4, 5, and 6 will present itself, right? And that's one of the biggest mistakes that I always used to make as a so-called perfectionist. I was always looking at the details of things. And this year, I really learned to let go of the details and just focus on the bigger picture, focus on the basics. Do you want to make more money? Put yourself out there. Take inventory of what you're good at and offer it to people. A lot of them are going to say no, but some of them will say yes. And those are the ones that count, right? So that's it. Again, like I said, in the light of vulnerability and honesty, I felt like I really needed to share this video, not only for you as a viewer, but quite frankly, also for myself. I felt like this is something that I needed to get off my chest. But also, like, I want every person to do better. If you ask me, like, what's your life's mission? I guess it is to help people to kind of like bridge that gap from where they are today to where they want to be in the future, and not per se by, you know, like helping you do it or whatever, but just showing some insight on how I'm doing it, because it is as much of a journey for me as it is to you, right? When you look at people on Instagram and you see 7,000 followers, 70,000 followers, 700,000 followers, you very easily get absorbed in this idea that they're doing something right and you're not. And I'm telling you, from a straight fact, every fucking individual on planet Earth has something that they ain't doing right, has something that they still need to improve, still has moments of weaknesses, still has moments in which they think the grass is greener on the other side, right? So it's a very natural progression of life. And you know, don't let that fool you. Don't let the entitlement trap fool you. Don't let the comparison trap fool you. Don't fall into comparing your life to other people. Don't fall into the trap that you think that you deserve something or that you're entitled to something. You want something? Fucking write it down and go after it. Wishing you a best 2023.